Alright, so many of you may have heard that the job market is in a pretty terrible place right now. Like, the administration is constantly bragging about how many jobs they've made, jobs they've created. The Trump administration brags about this. The Biden administration before them bragged about it. But in reality, none of them are like actual good jobs. They're the kind of jobs that you would have to work 4 different of these jobs just in order to like have a livable amount of money coming in. And the thing about that is that it's basically just because most of these quote unquote jobs that are creating are just little part-time jobs at like Wendy's or something equally shitty to that. And the truth is that we're in a pretty bad white-collar recession because, everybody has been told to go to college. Go to college. Go and become a computer programmer. Go and become an IT cloud guy or a cybersecurity expert, analyst, penetration tester. Go become an AI machine learning expert. Get a degree in tech or engineering or some kind of STEM field that pays a lot. Because doctors and lawyers, that's too hard. But of course, computer science is really easy, as we all know. That's not really the case, but that's how they try to sell it. They try to sell it as computers are these low barrier to entry, computing, I should say. It's a low barrier to entry field that anyone can just get into and just make a shitload of money. But the thing is that's not the case, really. That's not really the case, and I'm gonna lay out why that's not the case. But first, we have to go back. We have to go back to like the early 2000s, the 1990s, and in some cases even before that. Being a computer programmer, it paid decently if you were at the top of your field or whatever. If you were like a Steve Wozniak type of genius or like a Linus Torvalds kind of person. But the majority of people doing it, they were just making decent money, but not anything crazy. It was just like any other white-collar office job. And the thing is that it was really just meant for a certain kind of like really nerdy person who geeks out on this stuff. And a lot of us, we kind of miss those days of when, computer science wasn't cool, but it was just cool to a select group of people who nerded out on that stuff to begin with. We get, most of those early programmers who worked on like the Linux kernels and stuff, they were nerdy dudes who maybe had like a little bit of an autistic fixation on this certain area of software development or this certain area of IT and engineering that they really just liked. It's more of an obsession thing. It was not really meant to be like a big money grab. But now that's kind of what it's turned into. IT and computer science and cybersecurity, it's all just like a big cash grab that now invites the kind of person who would have pursued law or medical school or would have gone into like investment banking, Wall Street, day trader stuff, real like tryhards who don't really have a passion for anything, but they just want to make a shitload of money. And honestly, as a person who grew up on the web, who grew up, playing video games and looking up to, these sort of like big brain software people, as someone who got into it for like legit reasons of being interested in the actual subject and not just because it makes a ton of money. It's just really sad to see the state of it. And the simple truth is that, a lot of the kinds of people who are just sort of like interested in it, genuinely interested in it, we can't really compete with the way that the industry is now, because the way it stands now, you're basically competing against wealthy tryhards who got 4.0 GPA and they don't care about it at all, but they're just like, it's the kind of person who will just like hustle really hard and try to make a ton of money and try to get all the best test scores. You're either competing with that kind of guy who went to MIT, or you're competing with Indian people who will do it for who will do the same job for like $5 an hour overseas. And that's kind of the problem with the whole industry becoming a massive cash grab. And I myself and a lot of other people, we sort of fell in love with the field of IT because it was it was kind of like a Wild West back in the day. Like, I read something the other day, somebody was talking about how back then, and this was absolutely true when I was a kid, if you wanted to get into cybersecurity, it wasn't just like you go and grind some little cert. The people who wanted to learn about cybersecurity, they had to risk their freedom doing illegal hacker shit just to learn about it, because there wasn't all these resources like Try Hack Me and Hack the Box and Bug Bounty and all these stupid little cybersecurity specializations that you can take in college or some boot camp or whatever. The people who would get into it were the people who are actually about that life, and I just feel like now it's really just a bunch of quote unquote agile developers, agile engineers who follow they're not real engineers. They just follow a set of procedures that were set out for them by some brainiac, not really brainiac, fucking idiot in management who got a business degree or something like that. And that's just the general way it's going. I mean, yeah, back in the day, you actually had to hack something to learn about cybersecurity. Back in the day, if you wanted to learn about kernel dev, you had to actually go fork the kernel repo and start messing around with it yourself and reading the source code and learning low-level C++ with memory management. You had to learn you had to learn a little bit about how a CPU actually worked. I mean, I'm sure that's still how it kind of is with kernel development, because there's not that much. I don't know that there's like too much money in kernel development, but I know there's some money in like low-level embedded systems, but that's besides the point. The point is, all these people who are getting into it now, they probably don't need to be here, because they're really just doing it for the money, and because they're all here, the wages are going down and it's becoming more difficult to get a job. And so they essentially turned this thing, they sort of like ruined the gold rush of it in a way. Like it was never really supposed to be a gold rush in the first place, because like I said, those back in the early days of like Silicon Valley or whatever, the average programmer, he wasn't making that much money. Like, he probably made decent money compared to other white collar jobs, but it wasn't just known as this big, oh yeah, go be a computer scientist and you'll get rich. if you do that back in like 1995 or whatever. So the profit motive wasn't quite as strong there. But now it's just like loaded with these people who've ruined it, and now it no longer, whatever money was there, it's like even harder to get for the people who actually care about this stuff in the first place. And so now you just have a bunch of developers who are writing this crappy bloated code because of agile and object oriented programming and fucking 50 million JavaScript frameworks like React and Svelte and whatever. It's just, you guys ruined it. But here's the light at the end of the tunnel before I end the video, before I end this rant. The light is that the indie web still exists. The open source software movement still exists. There's still, things like kernel development and stuff that's too hard to get into for people who are just kind of in it for the money. I think the upside is that because it's getting so oversaturated, all of the types of people who were just going to get into it for the money, those people are slowly starting to get chased out of the field. And the rest of us, well, we probably just have to wait it out. Like, it's a little sad, but, we can always make another Skyrim mod or create, personal projects. And they might not make money, but you know what? Those personal projects, they look really good on a resume, and you never know. Like, you could become that mod pack guy who eventually sets up like a little Patreon or something, and then you do start getting some money from it. I don't know. Not saying that getting into mod is like a good way to do money, or get money. And it shouldn't be about the money in the first place. I guess the moral of the story is you really shouldn't be into any kind of tech thing or whatever if you're just doing it for the money, because the money isn't really there as much as it used to be, and what little money there is, what little money there is going to be so hard to get if you're not obsessed with this stuff, that it just isn't really worth it. Like, the juice, if you're purely here for profiteering motives, the juice just honestly is not worth the squeeze, would be what I'd say to you. But if you're the kind of person who nerded out on this stuff when you were a kid, and you actually like it and you care about it, and you want to know how that Skyrim mod works, or you want to know how how a kernel exploit works, or how SQL injection works, or you care about cleaning data so you can create graphs and analyses with that data and come to interesting conclusions, and do that all with some like Python pandas or something like that. You want to do data analysis, data science, and you actually have an interest in the math. But if you just want money, you're honestly probably better off just going into some other field of business. That's just my opinion. But, let me know what you guys think in the comment sections. In the comment section, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it still is a total gold rush. Maybe it's a gold rush, but I'm just not seeing it, and I think the people who think that it is are ruining it for the rest of us.